The massive black ships moved through space like silent death. They had no need for stealth because no one had ever escaped them. For 3,000 years, the Kethmoran had ruled the dark corners of the galaxy with fear and blood. Captain Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the stars pass by. His 8-foot frame cast a long shadow across the metal floor. His red eyes glowed in the dim light as he studied the datapad in his clawed hands. Sharp teeth filled his mouth when he smiled, thinking about their next target. "Captain," his second officer called out, "we have reached the target system." Vexitar looked up at the main screen. A small yellow star burned bright in the center. Several planets orbited around it, but only one mattered. The third planet from the star was blue and green, covered in water and land. Life readings showed billions of creatures living on its surface. "Show me the details of the prey," Vextar commanded. The screen changed to show images of the planet's dominant species. They walked on 2 legs like the Kethmoran, but they were so much smaller. Their skin was soft and pink or brown. They had no claws, no fangs, no armor plating. Their eyes were tiny and weak. Most surprising of all, they had almost no hair covering their bodies. "They call themselves humans," the officer reported. "Our scans show they are very weak. No natural weapons. Their bones break easily. They cannot run fast or jump high. They live short lives, maybe 80 of their years." Vextar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "What about their technology?" "Very basic, Captain. They have only just learned to leave their planet. Their fastest ships cannot even reach their neighboring worlds. Their weapons are simple projectile throwers and explosive devices, nothing that could harm our armor." The other Kethmoran warriors on the bridge joined their captain's laughter. In 3,000 years, they had hunted 73 different species across the galaxy. Some had been strong like the rock creatures of Vega Prime. Others had been smart like the machine builders of the Andromeda sector. A few had even been fast like the wing riders of the crystal moons. But all of them had fallen to the Kethmoran hunt. All of them had run and screamed and died in fear. It was the way of things. The Kethmoran were the apex predators of the galaxy. Nothing could stand against them. "These humans will provide good sport," Vextar said, studying the images again. "They look soft and scared, perfect for a long hunt." The Kethmoran way was simple and had never changed. They would arrive at a world and announce themselves. They would give the prey species exactly 1 rotation of their planet to prepare. This was not kindness or mercy. It was sport. Fear made the hunt more exciting. Panic made the prey make mistakes. Terror made the final kill more satisfying. "Send the message," Vextar ordered. The communications officer pressed several buttons on his control panel. Across the human world, every television, radio, computer, and phone would receive the same message at the same time. It was always the same message, spoken in the prey species' own language. The translation computers had studied human communications for days. They had learned the words that would cause the most fear. The message would be simple and direct, just like every time before. On Earth, billions of humans were going about their normal day when every electronic device suddenly activated. Televisions turned themselves on in homes and businesses. Radios crackled to life in cars and offices. Computer screens flickered and changed. Phone calls were interrupted as a new voice took over every line. The voice was deep and cold, speaking perfect English with an accent that sounded wrong somehow. The words came from every speaker on the planet at exactly the same moment. "We are the Kethmoran. We are your death. You have 24 hours to run." The message repeated 3 times. Then all the devices went back to normal. But the damage was done. Across Earth, humans stared at their screens in shock and confusion. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke or a movie advertisement. Others felt a cold fear creep up their spine. High above the planet, Vextar watched the thermal readings from the surface. He expected to see the usual pattern: mass panic in the cities, crowds of people running in all directions, vehicles speeding away from population centers as the prey species tried to hide in remote areas. But something was different this time. "Captain," the scanning officer called out, confusion in his voice. "The humans are not running." Vextar moved to the scanning station and looked at the display. The thermal images showed human cities, but instead of chaos, he saw organization. Instead of panic, he saw coordination. Groups of humans were moving, but not in random flight. They moved with purpose and direction. "What are they doing?" Vextar asked. "Unknown, Captain. They appear to be gathering in specific locations. Military installations are showing increased activity. We are detecting multiple communications between their government centers." This was new. In 3,000 years of hunting, no prey species had ever responded this way. They always ran. They always panicked. They always tried to hide. But these humans seemed to be doing something else entirely. "Perhaps they do not understand the message," suggested the communications officer. "Impossible," Vextar replied. The translation was perfect. "They know we are coming. They know they have one day." He stared at the readings, trying to understand what he was seeing. The humans were not running away from their cities. Instead, more humans were moving toward specific areas. Heat signatures showed large gatherings forming in places marked as military bases and government buildings. "Continue monitoring," Vextar ordered. "Perhaps they will begin running soon. Some species take time to process their fear." But as the hours passed, the pattern continued. The humans were not fleeing. They were not hiding. They appeared to be preparing for something, though Vextar could not imagine what. No prey species had ever tried to fight back against the Kethmoran. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. "Prepare the hunting parties," Vextar finally commanded. "We will land at the designated time. Whatever these humans think they are doing, it will not matter. The hunt always ends the same way." As the great black ships moved into position around the blue planet, Captain Vextar felt the familiar excitement building in his chest. Soon the hunt would begin. Soon the humans would learn what every other species in the galaxy had learned. The Kethmoran were the apex predators. Nothing could stand against them. Nothing had ever tried. But unknown to Vextar, down on the surface of Earth, something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in 3,000 years, a prey species was not preparing to run. They were preparing to fight. The message had reached every corner of Earth in less than 5 minutes. In living rooms, offices, cars, and phones, humans heard the same cold voice delivering the same terrifying promise. But what happened next surprised even the humans themselves. President Lisa Martinez was in the middle of a budget meeting when every screen in the White House Situation Room flickered to life. The alien voice spoke its message of death, then disappeared. For exactly 10 seconds, the room was completely silent. Then General Jack Morrison stood up from his chair. The old soldier had fought in 3 wars and seen things that would break most people. His face was calm as he looked around the room. "Well," he said quietly, "looks like all those classified projects just became very unclassified." Within minutes, red phones were ringing in military bases across America. Similar calls were being made in Russia, China, Britain, and every other nation on Earth. The governments of the world had prepared for this day, even though most of their citizens never knew it. Dr. Karen Phillips was eating lunch at her desk when her secure phone rang. She was the head of something called the Department of Advanced Research Projects. Most people had never heard of her department, and that was exactly how she liked it. "Phillips here," she answered. "Karen, we need everything. Project Overwatch, Project Defender, all of it. The real deal just showed up." Dr. Phillips looked at her half-eaten sandwich and pushed it aside. She had been preparing for this call for 15 years. "How long do we have?" 24 hours. That should be enough." She hung up the phone and pressed a button on her desk. Across the building, computers began to wake up systems that had been waiting in the dark for years. At Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado, Colonel Ryan Hayes was already at his post when the message played. He had been watching the alien ships approach for the last 6 hours. The space tracking systems had spotted them long before they reached Earth. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we have multiple launches worldwide. Russia is moving their submarines. China is activating their missile defense systems. The British are scrambling their air force." Ryan nodded. This was exactly what they had practiced for. Every major military in the world had secret plans for this day. They called it First Contact Protocol, but everyone knew what it really was. It was a plan for war. In the Pentagon, Marine General Patricia Lewis was walking quickly through the halls. Her phone had not stopped ringing since the alien message ended. Every few steps, another officer would approach her with reports. General, the Pacific Fleet is moving to battle positions. General, the Army is activating all reserve units. General, Special Forces teams are deploying to predetermined locations. Patricia kept walking. She had trained for urban warfare, desert combat, and jungle fighting. But she had also trained for something else, something the public never knew about. She had trained to fight enemies from space. At NASA headquarters, Dr. Amanda Foster was staring at screens filled with data. The alien ships were clearly visible now, positioned around Earth like a net. She counted at least 50 vessels, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. "How many people do you think are on those ships?" asked her assistant. "Does it matter?" Amanda replied. "We are not planning to surrender." She picked up her phone and dialed a number that connected directly to the Pentagon. "This is Foster. The aliens have 57 ships in orbit. I am sending you their exact positions now." What the aliens could not see from space was the real response happening on Earth. In military bases hidden deep underground, soldiers were opening weapons lockers that contained things the public had never seen. In secret laboratories, scientists were activating systems that had been tested but never used. Staff Sergeant Kevin Blake was in the mountains of Colorado when his radio crackled to life. He and his Special Forces team had been on a training exercise, but now everything had changed. "Blake, this is command. You have new orders. Proceed to landing zone Alpha. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Repeat, weapons free." Kevin looked at his team. They were some of the best soldiers in the world, trained to fight in any environment against any enemy, but they had never fought aliens before. "You heard the orders?" Kevin told his men. "Gear up. We have work to do." Corporal Janet Miller was checking her rifle when she heard the transmission. She was a sniper, trained to hit targets from distances that seemed impossible. Her weapon could punch through armor plating from over a mile away. "Think these aliens bleed red like everyone else?" asked one of her teammates. "Guess we will find out," Janet replied, loading a round into her rifle. Across the world, similar conversations were happening in dozens of languages. In Moscow, Russian soldiers were preparing weapons that could level city blocks. In Beijing, Chinese military units were moving equipment that officially did not exist. In London, British Special Forces were reviewing target information on enemies they had never seen before. But the most important conversations were happening in places the aliens could not detect. Deep underground in bunkers built to survive nuclear war, military leaders from different countries were talking to each other. "The Americans are ready," reported one voice. "Russian forces are in position," said another. "Chinese weapons are online. British Air Force is standing by." For the first time in human history, every major military power on Earth was working together. They had different languages, different governments, and different reasons for fighting. But they all understood one simple truth. The aliens had made a mistake when they chose Earth. Major Danny Rodriguez was in an abandoned city that had been evacuated years ago after an earthquake. But the city was not really abandoned. It had been turned into something else, something the aliens would not expect. "How many do you think will land here?" asked one of his soldiers. "Does not matter," Danny replied. "This whole place is one big trap. Every building, every street, every sewer tunnel. We have been preparing this for years." Captain Helen Carter was in the cockpit of her F-22 fighter jet, running through her pre-flight checks. She had been flying military aircraft for 12 years and had never lost a dogfight. Today would be different, though. Today she would be fighting an enemy that could fly through space. "Control, this is Carter. Request permission to engage any hostile aircraft." Permission granted, Carter. Show them what human pilots can do. As the 24-hour deadline approached, something remarkable was happening on Earth. Instead of panic and chaos, there was calm preparation. Instead of running and hiding, there was coordinated movement toward battle positions. The aliens had given humanity one day to run. Instead, humanity had used that day to get ready for war. Every soldier, every pilot, every person with a weapon was moving into position. They had trained for this day without knowing it would ever come. High above Earth, Captain Vexitar watched the thermal readings and grew more confused by the hour. The humans were still not running. If anything, they seemed to be gathering in larger groups near what appeared to be military installations. Perhaps they are surrendering, suggested one of his officers. Perhaps, Vexitar replied, but something felt wrong. In 3,000 years of hunting, no species had ever behaved this way. Soon he would learn that humans had spent those same 3,000 years doing something no other species had ever done. They had spent them learning how to kill each other, more efficiently. The hunt was about to begin, but for the first time in Kethmaran history, the prey was ready to hunt back. 24 hours had passed. Captain Vexitar stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the blue planet below. The time for hunting had come. He had selected the perfect landing zone after studying the human settlements for hours. The target area was a dense forest in what the humans called the Pacific Northwest. Trees covered the land for hundreds of miles, creating the perfect hunting ground. Thermal scans showed scattered human heat signatures hiding among the trees. It would be a good hunt. Deploy the first hunting party, Vexitar commanded. 12. Kethmoran warriors loaded into their landing craft. Each warrior stood 8 feet tall and weighed over 400 pounds. Their black armor could stop most weapons known in the galaxy. Their claws could cut through steel. Their enhanced senses could track prey for miles. The landing craft descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. It touched down in a small clearing surrounded by thick forest. The warriors stepped out, breathing the alien air and testing their senses. Hunt leader, Zekamoth, was the first to leave the ship. He had killed prey on 40 different worlds. His armor was decorated with trophies taken from his victims. He sniffed the air and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The scent of fear is weak, he reported to his warriors. These humans are trying to hide their terror. It will make the hunt more interesting. What Zekamoth did not know was that 3 miles away, Staff Sergeant Kevin Blake was lying flat on his stomach behind a fallen log. He was looking through the scope of his rifle, watching the alien warriors through the trees. Command, this is Blake. Hostiles have landed. 12 targets, visible. They are moving in standard patrol formation. The voice in his earpiece was calm and professional. Copy that, Blake. You are cleared to engage. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Kevin had been a soldier for 15 years. He had fought in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. He had killed enemy fighters at ranges from across a room to across a valley. But he had never killed an alien before. He adjusted his scope and centered the crosshairs on the lead alien warrior. The creature was massive, covered in black armor that looked incredibly strong. Kevin aimed for the center of mass, just like he had been trained. Blake to all units, engaging in 3, 2, 1. The rifle kicked against his shoulder. The .308 round traveled at over 2,800 feet per second, covering the distance to the target in less than a second. It struck Zekamoth in the chest with the force of a sledgehammer. The Kethmaran warrior looked down in shock. There was a hole in his armor. Green blood was flowing from the wound. He tried to roar in anger, but instead he fell forward onto the forest floor. His body twitched once, then went still. Contact confirmed, Kevin reported. Target is down. Alien armor can be penetrated by standard rounds. The other Kethmaran warriors stared at their fallen leader in disbelief. This was impossible. Nothing in the galaxy could penetrate their armor. Nothing had ever killed a Kethmaran warrior from a distance. Spread out, commanded the new leader. Find the source of the attack. But before they could move, more shots rang out from different directions. Corporal Janet Miller was positioned on a ridge over a mile away. Through her scope, she could see the aliens clearly. Her .50 caliber rifle was designed to destroy vehicles. But it worked perfectly on alien warriors. The massive round struck the second Kethmoran in the head. The warrior's helmet exploded like a melon, sending pieces of armor flying in all directions. The body fell backward and did not move. 2 down, Janet reported calmly. These things died just like everything else. From a third position, Sergeant Bobby Martinez opened fire with his M240 machine gun. The weapon fired 750 rounds per minute, each bullet capable of stopping a charging bull. The stream of lead tore through 2 more alien warriors before they could find cover. In less than 30 seconds, half of the Kethmoran hunting party was dead. The survivors crouched behind trees, trying to understand what was happening. They had never faced an enemy that attacked from multiple directions at once. High above in orbit, Captain Vextar watched his warriors' life signs disappear from his display screen. One by one, the indicators went dark. His hands shook as he realized what he was seeing. Impossible, he whispered. Nothing can kill Kethmoran warriors. But the evidence was right in front of him. His greatest hunters, warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds, were being eliminated by creatures they had dismissed as weak prey. Send reinforcements, he ordered. Send all available hunting parties. More landing craft descended from the sky. 50 Kethmoran warriors landed in different locations across the forest. They would surround the humans and destroy them with overwhelming numbers. But the humans were not where the aliens expected them to be. Kevin Blake and his team had moved to new positions as soon as they fired their first shots. They used radios to coordinate their movements and share information about enemy locations. Major Danny Rodriguez was waiting in the ruins of an old logging camp when the second wave of aliens arrived. His team had spent weeks preparing this location, turning every building into a fortress and every road into a killing zone. The Kethmoran warriors approached the camp with confidence. They could see human heat signatures inside the buildings. The prey had trapped themselves in a small area. It would be easy to surround them and move in for the kill. What they could not see were the carefully placed explosives, the hidden weapons positions, and the escape tunnels that connected every building. When the aliens entered the camp, they walked into a trap that had been designed by people who understood warfare. Fire, Danny commanded. Machine guns opened up from concealed positions. Explosives detonated under the aliens' feet. Sniper rifles picked off targets from hidden locations. The Kethmoran warriors found themselves caught in a crossfire with no way to escape. Within minutes, 20 more alien warriors were dead. The survivors tried to retreat, but they found the roads blocked and the forest filled with human soldiers, who seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts. Captain Helen Carter was flying her F-22 fighter jet at 30,000 feet when she spotted an alien aircraft rising from the planet's surface. The enemy ship was sleek and fast, designed for atmospheric combat, but it had never faced a human pilot. Control, this is Carter. I have visual on hostile aircraft, requesting permission to engage. Permission granted, Carter. Show them what we can do. Helen pushed her throttles forward and dove toward the alien fighter. Her radar locked onto the target and she fired 2 air-to-air missiles. The alien pilot tried to evade, but the missiles were too fast and too smart. The alien aircraft exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Pieces of wreckage fell toward the ocean below. Splash 1 hostile aircraft, Helen reported. These aliens might be advanced, but they do not know how to dogfight. Back in orbit, Captain Vextar stared at his tactical display in growing horror. Over 60 of his warriors were dead. His atmospheric fighters were being shot down. His hunters were being hunted. For 3,000 years, the Kethmoran had been the apex predators of the galaxy. They had conquered every species they encountered. But now they faced an enemy unlike anything they had ever imagined. The humans were not running. They were not hiding. They were fighting back with weapons, tactics, and skills that the Kethmoran had never encountered. Worse yet, they seemed to be winning. Captain, his communications officer called out with fear in his voice. We are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through, Vextar commanded. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and professional. It belonged to Colonel Susan Wright, speaking from a military command center deep underground. This is Colonel Wright of the United States Army. You have attacked our world and killed our people. We are now at war. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. Vextar laughed, but the sound was forced and hollow. You dare to threaten us? We are the Kethmaran. We are the greatest hunters in the galaxy. Were, Colonel Wright replied. You were the greatest hunters in the galaxy. Now you are just target. Practice. The transmission ended, leaving Vextar staring at the static on his screen. For the first time in his life, the great hunter felt something he had never experienced before. He felt afraid. Captain Vextar could not sleep. For 2 days he had watched his warriors die on the planet below. Every hunting party he sent down was destroyed. Every attack failed. The humans were not behaving like prey at all. Captain, his tactical officer, reported with a shaking voice. We have lost another 12 warriors in the desert region. The humans used some kind of explosive devices buried in the sand. Vextar growled in frustration. The humans seemed to know exactly where his forces would land before they even arrived. They prepared traps and ambushes with a skill that no prey species had ever shown. What about the city assault, he asked. Unsuccessful, sir. We lost 15 warriors in the urban area. The humans turned the entire city into a weapons platform. Major, Danny Rodriguez had been waiting in the abandoned city for 3 days. Every street had been prepared. Every building had been reinforced. Every rooftop held hidden soldiers with weapons aimed at the sky. When the Kethmaran dropships descended toward the city center, they flew directly into a trap that had taken weeks to prepare. Surface-to-air missiles launched from hidden positions, on top of buildings. Machine gun nests opened fire from windows and doorways. The first alien transport exploded before it could land. The second crashed into a building that had been rigged with explosives. The third managed to touch down, but the warriors inside found themselves surrounded by enemies who knew every inch of the battlefield. Sergeant Bobby Martinez led his squad through the underground tunnels that connected the city buildings. They had studied the alien landing patterns and knew exactly where the survivors would try to go. Contact front, whispered one of his soldiers. 3 Kethmaran warriors were moving through an alley between 2 buildings. They thought they were safe, hidden from the human snipers on the rooftops. They did not know about the tunnels below. Bobby's team emerged from manholes and basement doorways behind the aliens. The Kethmaran turned to fight, but they were too slow. Human weapons fired from multiple directions, cutting down the warriors before they could use their claws. Area secure, Bobby reported. Moving to next position. This was how the humans fought. They did not charge forward like brave heroes in movies. They did not face the aliens in honorable single combat. Instead, they used every advantage they could find. They fought smart, not fair. High above the city, Captain Helen Carter was flying her second mission of the day. Her F-22 had been refueled and rearmed with fresh missiles. She was hunting for alien aircraft that might try to support their ground forces. Control, this is Carter. I have multiple contacts rising from the surface. Looks like they are trying to evacuate their people. Negative, Carter. Do not let them escape. Weapons free. Helen smiled grimly. The aliens had made a mistake thinking they could run away. Her fighter jet was faster than anything the Kethmaran had. Her missiles were more accurate than alien weapons. Her training was better than any pilot in the galaxy. She dove toward the escaping alien ships and fired her weapons. One by one, the enemy craft exploded or crashed back to Earth. None of them made it to orbit. All hostile aircraft destroyed, Helen reported. The sky belongs to us. In the ocean off the coast of California, another battle was being fought beneath the waves. The aliens had tried to establish an underwater base thinking the humans could not reach them there. They were wrong. Commander Lisa Park was the captain of a nuclear submarine that had been hunting alien ships for the past day. Her sonar had detected the underwater alien base, and her torpedoes were ready to destroy it. Firing solution ready, Captain, reported her weapons officer. Fire, Lisa commanded. 4 torpedoes launched from the submarine and raced toward the alien base. Each weapon carried enough explosive power to sink a battleship. The underwater explosions lit up the ocean like artificial suns. When the water cleared, there was nothing left of the alien base except scattered debris floating to the surface. Back in space, Captain Vextar received report after report of failure and death. His warriors were being systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving another transmission from the planet." This time the voice belonged to General Jack Morrison, speaking from the Pentagon's war room. His tone was calm and professional, like a teacher explaining a simple lesson. "Captain Vextar, this is General Morrison. Your hunting expedition has failed. You have lost over 200 warriors in 3 days. Your aircraft have been destroyed. Your bases have been eliminated. I suggest you withdraw before you lose more lives." Vextar activated his own communication system. "You think you have one human? We still have thousands of warriors on our ships. We can destroy your entire planet if we choose." "You could try," Morrison replied. "But you should know something first. You are not the first alien species to threaten Earth. You are just the first one stupid enough to give us 24 hours to prepare." This was a lie, but Vextar did not know that. The general was using psychological warfare, trying to make the alien captain doubt himself. "You are bluffing," Vextar said, but his voice sounded less confident than before. "Am I? Your scouts never detected our orbital defense platforms, did they? Your sensors never found our hidden weapons satellites. You thought we were primitive, but you only saw what we wanted you to see." This was also a lie. Humans had no orbital weapons platforms or hidden satellites, but Vextar was beginning to doubt everything he thought he knew about these strange creatures. "Prove it," he demanded. "Look at your long-range sensors," Morrison suggested. Vextar turned to his scanning officer, who was staring at his display screen with wide eyes. "Captain, I am detecting multiple objects moving toward our position from the outer system. They appear to be missiles. In reality, these were not weapons at all. They were old satellites and space debris that NASA had deliberately sent on a collision course with the alien fleet. But from a distance, they looked exactly like incoming missiles." "You have exactly 1 hour to leave our system," Morrison's voice continued. "If you are still here when those weapons arrive, we will destroy every one of your ships." Vextar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These warriors had conquered dozens of worlds, but now they looked scared and confused. They had never faced an enemy like this before. "Sir," his tactical officer whispered, "perhaps we should consider retreat. We have lost too many warriors already." For the first time in Kethmaran history, a hunting captain was considering surrender. The humans had done something that no other species had ever accomplished. They had made the galaxy's greatest predators afraid. But Vextar was not ready to give up yet. He had one more weapon to use, something the humans could not possibly be prepared for. "Prepare the orbital bombardment," he commanded. "We will destroy their cities from space. Let us see how brave they are when their world is burning." His weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, that would violate the ancient hunting laws. We are supposed to hunt them, not exterminate them." "The humans have changed the rules," Vextar replied coldly. "Now we change them too." Deep underground in the Pentagon, General Morrison watched his displays as the alien ships began to charge their weapons. He had been expecting this. The aliens were desperate now, and desperate enemies did stupid things. "Are our countermeasures ready?" he asked. "Yes, sir," replied his aide. "Project Shield is online and waiting for your command." Morrison smiled. The humans had one more surprise for their unwanted visitors. Something that would teach them the most important lesson in warfare. Never underestimate your enemy. "Execute Project Shield," Morrison commanded. High above Earth, invisible energy fields suddenly appeared around the planet. The alien weapons fired their deadly beams toward the human cities below, but the energy bolt struck the shields and bounced harmlessly into space. Vextar watched in horror as his most powerful weapons failed completely. The humans had not only defeated his warriors on the ground, they had neutralized his space-based weapons as well. "Impossible," he whispered. "How did they know?" The truth was that humans had been watching alien ships in their galaxy for over 50 years. They had studied alien technology, learned alien tactics, and prepared for this exact scenario. The Kethmoran thought they were hunting primitive prey, but they had actually attacked one of the most militarily prepared species in the galaxy. Morrison's voice came through the communication system one final time. "Your hour is up, Captain. Leave, now, or we will show you what human weapons can really do." Captain Vextar stood alone on his bridge, staring at the blue planet below. In 5 days he had lost over 300 warriors. His most powerful weapons had been useless. His greatest hunters had been killed like animals. The humans had done the impossible, Captain, his communications officer said quietly. "We are receiving a final transmission from the planet. Put it through," Vextar replied. His voice sounded tired and defeated. The screen filled with the image of a human female in military uniform. Colonel Susan Wright sat behind a metal desk, in what appeared to be an underground command center. Her eyes were cold and hard as she looked directly at the alien captain. "Captain Vextar," she began, "I am Colonel Wright of the United States Army. I have been authorized to speak for all human governments. This war is over. You have lost." Vexatar straightened his shoulders and tried to look fierce. "We are the Kethmoran. We do not lose to prey animals." "You already have," Wright replied calmly. "Your hunting fleet is broken. Your warriors are dead. Your weapons are useless. You came here thinking we were weak because we have no claws or fangs. You made a serious mistake." "What mistake?" Vextar demanded. Wright leaned forward in her chair. "You assumed that because we lack natural weapons, we are not predators. You forgot to ask yourself what made us the dominant species on our world. We did not evolve to hunt animals, Captain. We evolved to hunt each other." She gestured to someone off-screen, and the view changed to show images of human history. Battlefields covered with bodies, cities destroyed by bombs, weapons that could kill millions at once. "For 10,000 years, we have been perfecting the art of warfare," Wright continued. "Every weapon we have built, every tactic we have developed, every strategy we have learned has been designed to kill something exactly as intelligent and dangerous as ourselves." The images changed to show modern human weapons, missiles that could hit targets thousands of miles away, aircraft that could fly faster than sound, submarines that could hide underwater for months while carrying enough firepower to destroy continents. "You hunt animals and weak civilizations," Wright said. "We hunt ourselves. We fight wars against enemies who are just as smart, just as determined, and just as deadly as we are. Every human soldier has trained to fight opponents who think exactly like they do." Vextar watched the images with growing horror. The humans had weapons he had never imagined, strategies that his people had never considered. They had turned killing into a science. "You gave us 24 hours to prepare," Wright continued. "Do you know what we did with that time? We activated defense systems that have been waiting for decades. We deployed weapons you never detected. We coordinated military forces that have been training for this exact scenario since before you left your homeworld." On his tactical display, Vextar could see the truth of her words. Across Earth, human military units were moving with perfect coordination. Aircraft filled the skies. Ships controlled the oceans. Soldiers held every strategic position on the ground. "But here is the most important thing you need to understand," Wright said, her voice becoming deadly serious. "You were not fighting all of humanity. You were fighting a tiny fraction of our military forces, less than 1% of our total capability." This was not entirely true, but Vextar did not know that. Wright was using psychological warfare to break his will to fight. "We have been watching you for years," she lied smoothly. "We knew you were coming long before you arrived. We studied your tactics, learned your weaknesses, and prepared counters for every strategy you might use." Vextar felt his confidence crumbling. Everything had gone wrong from the moment they arrived. The humans had anticipated their every move. It was as if they were fighting an enemy that could read their minds. "You want to know our real secret?" Wright asked. "We are not angry that you attacked us. We are disappointed. For years, we wondered if there were any real warriors among the stars. Instead, we found bullies who pick on defenseless civilizations." She stood up from her desk and moved closer to the camera. "You call yourselves apex predators, but you have never faced a real predator before. You hunt creatures that run away. We hunt creatures that hunt us back. General Jack Morrison appeared on the screen beside Wright. His weathered face showed no emotion as he spoke. Captain, you have two choices. You can leave our system immediately and never return, or you can stay and discover what happens when humans stop playing defense and start hunting. You are bluffing, Vexitar said, but his voice shook. You cannot threaten us in space. Your ships are too primitive. Morrison smiled coldly. They check your sensors again. Vexitar turned to his scanning officer, who was staring at his display with wide eyes. Captain, I am detecting new contacts. Multiple human ships are rising from the planet's surface. They are armed and moving to intercept us. This was the moment Morrison had been waiting for. The secret space force that humanity had been building for 50 years was finally revealed. Ships that had been hidden on the dark side of the moon, in asteroid fields and in deep space, began to move toward the Kethmaran fleet. You see, Captain, Morrison continued, we have been preparing for visitors like you for a very long time. Did you really think a species that can split atoms and bend space would stop at building primitive rockets? The human ships appeared on Vexitar's screens like ghosts materializing from nothing. They were sleek and fast, armed with weapons that made Kethmaran technology look ancient. Impossible, Vexitar whispered. Your species is too young. You only reached space decades ago. That was what we wanted you to think, Wright replied. Rule number 1 of warfare, Captain. Never let your enemy know your true capabilities until it is too late for them to matter. One of the human ships moved alongside Vexitar's flagship. It was half the size of the Kethmaran vessel, but its weapons were already locked onto critical systems. This is Admiral Lisa Rodriguez aboard the UES Guardian, came a new voice. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in the immediate destruction of your ship. Vexitar looked around his bridge at his remaining crew. These warriors had conquered dozens of worlds, but now they looked defeated and afraid. They had finally met an enemy they could not beat. Captain, his tactical officer said quietly, our weapons cannot penetrate their shields. Their ships are faster than ours. If we fight, we will lose. For 3,000 years, the Kethmaran had been the apex predators of the galaxy. They had hunted and killed every species they encountered, but now they faced a species that had spent those same 3,000 years learning how to kill each other. We surrender, Vexitar said quietly. Smart choice, Morrison replied. You will be escorted to the edge of our system and released. Take this message back to your people. Earth is now under human protection. Any species that threatens us will face the same fate you did. As the surviving Kethmaran ships began their retreat, Wright had one final message. Tell them about us, Captain. Tell them that there is a new apex predator in the galaxy. Tell them that we are called human, and tell them that we have been hunting ourselves for 10,000 years, which means we are very, very good at it. The alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them a warning that would echo across the galaxy. The Kethmaran, the galaxy's most feared hunters, had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as weak prey, but humanity had taught them a hard lesson. The galaxy's newest apex predator was not defined by claws or fangs or natural armor. It was defined by intelligence, coordination, and a 10,000-year history of turning warfare into an art form. The hunt was over, and for the first time in galactic history, the prey had won. Word spread quickly through alien civilizations. The mighty Kethmaran had been humbled by a young species from a small blue planet, but the message was clear to everyone who heard it. Humanity was no longer prey. They were the hunters now, and they were very good at it.